this pulpit and song sung, so this is a special place, and I thank Pastor Blankenship and Bembry for giving me a chance to talk to you all for a few minutes. I'm not a preacher or a public speaker, so I decided to just take these few minutes to tell you the story of the day that I almost drove a youth group off the side of a mountain. But first, we'll read Isaiah 54:10. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you. And of course, you can sit down. Now, before all the parents start making mental notes to never let their kids be in a car with me, I can promise you that we were not the only ones stranded on the mountain that day, and it wasn't my fault. We'd taken a youth group to go snow tubing, and we had a great time. When we got ready to come back down, everything looked good, the weather was good, but things can change fast when you're up on the mountain. As we drove back down, the kids were listening to Christian music tapes. That dates me, but that's all right. Everyone was talking and having a great time, and then the snow started falling. Within a very short time, the roads were slick as a sheet of ice. On the left side of the road was a sheer drop straight off the side of the mountain. It went straight down, and there was no guardrail. On the right side, of course, was the mountain. As my minivan started sliding to the left, it soon became clear to the kids that we could be in trouble. The road was just wide enough for 2 cars. There was no room to make a mistake. I was taught to steer into the skid, but that wasn't an option on this skinny mountain road. I'm not sure how long the whole thing lasted. It was probably a lot less time than it felt. No matter what I did, that van just kept sliding to the left, towards the drop-off that I knew none of us could survive. The girl in the front seat started crying. I looked in my rearview mirror and saw these big eyes. I tried to stay calm. I didn't want the kids to know I was scared, but I was. My heart was pounding, and all I could think about was that I was going over the side of this mountain with these kids that I loved and whose parents I loved. I tried everything I could think of. I tried tapping the brakes, I tried letting off the gas, giving it a little more gas, turning the wheel gently, turning the wheel not so gently. I couldn't think of anything else to do. This happened years before that song, Jesus Take the Wheel, came out. But once I knew that I had no more tricks up my sleeve and there was nothing else I could do, I'd exhausted every trick I could think of to regain control. I looked one more time in the rearview mirror at that little boy's face, and I just let go of the wheel. I put my hands up in the air and I said, Jesus. The instant I did that, I had peace. I didn't have to take a minute to pray for peace. I didn't have to wait for it. The minute that I handed that situation to God and really let it go, there was peace. The anxiety was gone, the fear was gone, and it was replaced by a peace that came from letting go. It's a peace that can only come from letting go. Since I'm standing here and I'm not just a very fond memory of the people who love me, you can probably guess what happened next. While my hands were still in the air, the van changed directions. It began to drift away from the left side towards the right, and it gently hit the side of the mountain and came to a stop. As a bonus, the tires managed to land in a little ditch. Now, this was important because when we had to get out of the van a couple of hours later, the roads were so slick that the back end started sliding at the slightest movement. So had the tires not landed in that ditch, the van very easily could have started sliding back to the left. I don't have time to tell you the whole story of how we got off the mountain. Let's just say that I owe a debt to a friendly salt truck driver, and once we were safe, the kids all thought this was the most fantastic adventure. I delivered them all home the next afternoon, 24 hours late. There's something I like to say now when myself or one of my friends is going through a trial that we have no control over. I like to say there's no decision to make here. If there's something I can do to fix a situation, then I'll try. But sometimes I just have to say there's no decision to make and let it go. Sometimes there's nothing more we can do to change the outcome, and we're just along for the ride. That's how it was that day on the mountain, and that's how it's been many times since. We can yell and scream and shake our fist at heaven. Sometimes people say, why is this happening to me? But all of that, it's kind of a waste of time. It does nothing to change the outcome, and it certainly does nothing to give us peace. I'm not saying we should be passive. We should always do what we can do. Had I not tried to steer away from danger on that mountain, that would have been more foolishness than faith. We should always seek God and seek to make wise choices and fight for the things that are important in our lives. But sometimes things, it could be family or finances or our health, it gets to the point where we've done all we can do. And then there comes that place where nothing else that we can say is going to make a difference. At that point, when we have no decision to make and we're just along for the ride, we need to let it go. When I was struggling to find a way to stop that van from going over the side of the mountain, I was anxious and fearful. But when I let go and said his name, peace came. That same scenario of struggling and letting go and struggling and letting go has played out in many different ways over the years, but each time when I truly let go, there was peace. It's easy to forget that peace and pain can live together, but the peace of God can calm us and carry us even when it hurts. Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace removed. When I hit an icy patch, I know that the sooner I let go, the sooner I'll have peace. I don't always have the answer. I don't always like the answer or the outcome. And unlike that day on the mountain, we're not always going to quickly land softly and safely. Sometimes the struggle lasts much longer. It's a lot messier and a lot nastier. But there can still be peace. And I like to think that I get smarter as I get older, and that with each new patch of ice that catches me off guard, that I'll more quickly just raise my hands and say, Jesus. And when I do, I know that in him I can find peace and rest, just like I did that day on the mountain.